Yes, Brock Nathan is going to be taking questions from the audience. Write them down on a card and present them to us, and we can ask those questions if you would like.
Yes. Here we go.
Pledge allegiance.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Grace Place in Stuart, Florida. We're proud to be here tonight for the U.S. Senate debate between the non-party affiliation candidates tonight. We have a nice selection of the candidates here with us tonight, and we will introduce them, and they will introduce themselves, actually. We'll introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Joe Dewar.
And I'm Barry Grant. And we're proud to be here as moderators of this debate tonight. I'd like to introduce Joe. Joe, as a young man, became the veteran singer of our national anthem for every home game with the New York Islanders hockey team, over 16 years, in fact, and 4 Stanley Cup championships. Joe had a 40-year-plus career in the financial services industry, guiding and mentoring thousands toward their retirement. Currently, he's spending most of his time giving back to the world by coaching, mentoring, and helping individuals to become aware of the issues holding them back from their success through leadership and visual training. Joe Dewar, everyone.
Thank you. And I'd like to take a moment and introduce Barry Grant Marsh, my co-coordinator. Barry is a veteran of South Florida broadcasting who has spent over 40 years in radio, broadcast TV, and cable. His career included working as a morning air personality, news director, news anchor for the first cable TV news hour in West Palm Beach, and ownership of WSTU-AM, Stuart, Florida's heritage radio station. Barry currently owns BGM Creative, a local advertising and marketing firm, and is president of the American Advertising Federation of the Treasure Coast and represents the chapter as its government relations chair every year in Tallahassee. Barry and his family moved to Stuart in 1985 from Palm Beach County. And I think we should do the Pledge of Allegiance at this moment.
Yes, and since we have Joe Dewar here to sing the national anthem, we're also going to have the national anthem as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you please take off your hats and stand for our Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Barry.
We thought we'd cover some of the ground rules for this debate tonight so that the audience knows the rules. And we'd also like to have all the candidates know the rules as well. They've been studying them, but we're just going to share them with everyone tonight so we know the ground rules for the debate. So, Joe, why don't you kick us off on that first page?
Thanks, Barry. Only candidates who have been qualified through the Florida Division of Elections may participate in this debate. Candidates and their representatives will not be allowed to plant any campaign signs or on any part of the property or grounds. Candidates and campaigns are restricted from soliciting funds at the debate location before, during, or after the debate. All the questions that come from the moderators will not be given to any of the candidates before the debate.
Yes, and our next series of information has to do with the fact that the candidates must stay behind their podiums. You must stay behind your podium at all times and not move away from the podium at any time during the debate, except during our breaks that take place. And tonight we're going to have one break. That break will take place at 7:55. It'll be for 5 minutes. So that's when we'll have our break. Each question posed to the candidates by the moderators will be answered by all of the candidates, and there will be no rebuttals. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question. All opening statements are limited to 90 seconds. All closing statements will be limited to 2 minutes. And each candidate may use his time to answer the question posed or to speak about any other matter they decide to speak about. Any candidate may rebut another candidate, but it must be done with that candidate's allotted time for that question. No profanity may be permitted to be used by any candidate. I guess we're off the hook on that. All candidates have notified us that they will be here, and we're glad that they're here. So let's hear it for our candidates that have showed up for our debate here tonight.
Tonight we will be covering many areas and many questions that are in the news and concerns of Floridians and Americans. The first question I'm going to start with, Paul Stanton. And the
Do we
first
get
question,
introductions? Excuse me?
pardon me?
Introductions before questions?
Yes,
Oh,
we're
I'm
going to
sorry.
have introductions.
I'm sorry.
Yes, this is the
You're
time
right.
for introductions, so we are. We're excited about getting into the questioning. We just want you to know.
I'm
I know.
excited to answer
We work so
them.
hard. We work very hard on these
Yeah, we
questions.
work
Nobody knows who I am, though.
Yes, but Paul Stanton is with us tonight, and Paul is libertarian, and I might point out the fact that he is one of the 2 candidates that's on the ballot for August the 30th in Martin County as a libertarian. So we're proud to have Paul with us here tonight. So Paul, if you would please, why don't you open up with your statement?
Thank you. It is actually the first libertarian statewide primary in Florida history. So my name is Paul Stanton. I am a computer programmer and a libertarian activist. I'm the youngest one here on stage. So young, in fact, that on September 11th, 2001, I was sitting in my high school classroom when I watched the second plane hit the World Trade Center. When I saw my family, my community, and my country in danger, I volunteered. And now, as a combat veteran, I can tell you that our violent and coercive policies are not making us free or safe. These policies are paid for through coercive taxation. As paternalistic policymakers and politicians seek to control us through governmental paternalism, we need to question the very basic function of government to empower ourselves and to protect our constitutionally guaranteed rights. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
And next,
Is Rocky De La Fuente.
So we're not doing this alphabetical.
Oh,
not at this
no,
time.
we'll come down the line.
Okay. Well, I want to let you know, and thank you very much, Barry. Thank you, everybody, Joe, to have me. Joe, you sing very, very well. That's one of
Thank
the
you.
things that I do not do well. Thank you. Ladies, gentlemen, I'm Rocky. Rocky De La Fuente. Who am I and where I come from? I'm Hispanic. English is my second language. Judge me by my English because my Spanish is a little bit better. At the same token, where do I come from? My mother, number 7 of 15. 54 cousins from my mother's side, from Monterrey, Mexico. My father from Veracruz, Mexico. Born in California, San Diego, many, many years ago. I was going to say I was the oldest, but no, I'm not the oldest, and also I'm not the tallest. But at the same token, I grew up all over the world. I was educated in California. I was educated in Mexico City. I earned a bachelor's in physics and math. I studied business administration, accounting, and I was honored at the early of this year to be honored with a doctorate degree by UNESCO for International Business Ambassador. Well, you heard where I was raised. I currently do business in 4 countries. I currently do business in 8 states. California, Arizona, Florida, Connecticut, New York, Texas, Massachusetts, and I'm probably in Ohio. I employ today thousands of people, and I've employed them since I can remember. My first job, my first business, age 9. Young ladies in the front row. I was working at age 9. I had my first business. At age 11, young ladies in the front row, I was employing my classmates, and I was making pretty good money. But at the same token, at age 14, I took a summer job, worked in a car wash, $1.10 an hour. Eventually, I got 2 years later, $1.35 an hour. And I had to go 4 hours on a bus to be able to go to my job.
All right, we're going to have to wrap it up here.
Okay, I forgot I had 2 minutes, so I apologize. Anyway, you'll learn a little bit more about me and if you go to Rocky2016.com.
Thank you, Rocky. All right, now we go to Tony Curry.
Good evening. My name is Tony Curry. I chose to run for the United States Senate because I'm concerned about the future of our children. I am concerned about the runaway national debt quickly exceeding $20 trillion. I'm concerned about our current political climate, whereby party leaders are more interested in their party rather than the American people who elected them. I am concerned about the 30 million Americans who still do not have health insurance. 3 million of those currently live in our state here in Florida. I am concerned about the hard-working Florida families trying to survive on a minimum wage. This is why I am running for the U.S. Senate. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll have Howard Nepper.
Hi, my name is Howard Nepper, and I'm a Republican, long-life Republican for 35 years from Miami Beach, Florida. I started in Florida, my own business at 23 years old. I'm the president of Florida Mortgage Bankers and Global Condominium and Property Management. I'm proud of my 35-year career, closing almost 9,000 loans throughout the world and Florida. I participated with the 11th Circuit Court as a guardian ad litem protecting abused children. I'm an advocate for many causes. But let me tell you why I'm really running. My opponent, Marco Rubio, cannot be allowed to go back to the Senate. He stated clearly that he did not want to be a senator. He never voted but 15% on the Senate floor. He stated on the Senate floor that he wanted a law passed that a congressman should be fired if they did not come to work. Well, he has the worst record on the Senate floor. He lies, he flip-flops on his decisions, and he cheated the people of Florida. He cannot go back to the Senate. Marco Rubio simply gives grand speeches, and he's cheated the people and used this office for personal gain. So I'm running for the Senate to make sure that Marco Rubio does not cheat the people of Florida any longer. When the people of Florida were having problems with health care, Social Security, police officers needing help, tuition around college kids' necks, our national security, foreign policy, where was he? He wasn't working. When I run my companies, if you don't work for me, you're fired. This man should never go back to the Senate, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that I beat him and he doesn't get back to Washington.
Thank you. All right. Now we'll have our statement from Bruce Nathan.
Thank you very much. My name is Bruce Nathan. I am running for United States Senate as well. I want to thank the Grace Place Church for allowing us to have this here tonight as a community event. It's just wonderful that they've allowed all of us to come in here and make this happen. It's a wonder to be able to live in this beautiful county as well as our beautiful country. And as you can see from the front row here, my beautiful girls are here. My son is back there. I've got 6 children. That's my big picture of why I'm running. I'm running because I have to make sure that this country does not continue the downslide that we have every single day with the current administration, the current leaders. All 535 of them are causing a disruption. That's a problem. As a no-party affiliate, I will go there and make sure that this does not continue. We have to make sure that our country will stay safe. National security is primary. Education is also primary. We have to make sure that we teach our children well and we protect them. That's what I do as a father. That's what I will do as a United States Senator. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Basil Dallek, please.
Okay. I'm Basil Dallek from Tequesta, and I want to stop the killing, and I want to bring the troops home. The wars the United States has initiated since October 2001, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, they're all violations of international code that was promulgated in August 1945 by the United States, the United Kingdom, the USSR, and France. They codified the principles in the treaty that was supposed to stop wars forever, and that was the Kellogg-Briand Treaty of 1929. Anyway, because we're violating international law, we've killed about 4 million people. You can check on the internet, what are the casualties of the war on terror. What I see is one of the numbers I saw was 4 million people since October 2001. And Tony mentioned the national debt. How much has it cost to kill those 4 million people? Almost $4 trillion. If we keep doing that, we're going down, it'll be a murder-suicide pact. We're going to be collapsing if we keep spending that kind of money. So what we have to do is stop the unlawful killing so we don't go broke and bring the troops home. Smedley Butler said it in his book, "War is a racket. The troops only belong in the United States to defend us against outside aggression by another country."
And thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. That's Basil Dallek.
Thank you all.
All right, now we're going to get into the questioning, and we're going to start with, once again, where we started.
With Paul Stanton.
With Paul Stanton. And Joe?
And the questions, again, will be covering a lot of areas, and one question I'd like to ask is illegal, debilitating, and many times deadly drug heroin has become very easily accessible to those who have the desire to use it. In fact, it has reached epidemic proportions in many places in the state of Florida. What are your recommendations to solve this health problem plaguing many in our community, and particularly our youth?
The first thing that we need to do is we need to end the war on drugs. The problem that we have right now with the heroin epidemic in this country is caused by the crackdown on prescription drugs. Not to mention, because of the war on drugs, drug addicts who seek help are at risk for imprisonment. We need to treat this serious public health problem as a public health problem and stop ruining the lives of sick people who need help.
Thank you. Rocky De La Fuente.
Well, the question is this. When people have too much time in their hands, they try to do something else. If we're able to create jobs, and more jobs, then people will not have the opportunity to try to experiment in hypothetical drugs. At the same token, we need to create people to be motivated, and we motivate them via sports. If you're basically doing sports, you will not be doing drugs. If you're doing sports, hopefully you won't be too much on your cell phone. So the question is not just basically, we need to take a look at what are our youth, what are our kids, what do our kids do? What do our kids do from ages 6 to age 20? And yes, one extreme is using drugs. But it starts with, what do we educate them? What do we feed them? And if we feed them a good education, and we allow them to do sports, and they're healthy in the sports, and they strive, and we make them competitive, we're preparing them for the future. We need to educate our kids. We need to educate our kids to make sure they know what happens if you get pregnant. We need to educate our kids so they understand what happens if they do drugs, and what happens if you happen to have too much sugar and you have diabetes. So it's not just a matter of heroin. It's not a matter of just cocaine. And now, folks, we do not know the long-term effects of marijuana. Yes, there's some marijuana that could be used for medicine purposes. Yes, some marijuana would be a lot easier if we basically give them to our kids, which happens to we know what we're giving them, versus getting them on the street and getting marijuana that has a lot of other goofy stuff inside. Folks, I will say no to drugs. We need to stop drugs at all costs for the future of our kids.
Thank you. Tony Corey.
It's very unfortunate that we have this heroin epidemic, hundreds and thousands of our young teens being murdered by these drug dealers, where they have no shame to bring this drug to our country. If we look at it from the other standpoint, where if we had a stronger economy, if we had better paying jobs, so that way the two parents are not working outside the home, barely making it, struggling to making a living on a minimum wage, maybe there will be more with their young teens so they can supervise them. Number two, it's about education. If we have spending more money on our education systems, if we have built more sports stadiums, if we have taken care of our schools, so we have more after-school activities that will keep our young teens away from drugs, away from the streets, away from violence. So these are two hand in hand, they have to go together. We have to strengthen our education here in Florida and across the United States. At the same time, we have to create higher paying jobs so the parents will have more time to spend with the young teens. And that's very critical time when they are developing from teens to adulthood. That's where they get carried away. That's where they get peer influence.
Thank you. Howard Nepper, please.
We don't have a war on drug policy in this country. We lose 200,000 people a year to drugs, not just heroin. 80% of the drugs coming from Mexico. If I went to the Senate, I'd present a bill in the Senate floor to triple the penalties for drug dealers. Life in prison the second time. We have to get tough and have a war on drugs. Now, we also have to have more counseling within the United States to help people that are on drugs. Mental illness also converts over to people using drugs. We have to fight this war on drugs coming into this country. But I'm telling you that we must fight bringing the military on the southern Mexican border if necessary. Now, 80% of our drugs come in from the Mexican border. Marijuana, cocaine, heroin, meth. We have no policy. So the Congress must take this seriously. Again, I'm going to repeat, we lose 200,000 plus people a year. We have to have much more counseling within the United States, urgent care centers. We have to really spend a fortune of money to fix this problem. It's not going to ever be 100% fixed, but we have nothing for the 8 years with this administration. Now, I'm going to go back to the penalty phase. If you're dealing drugs, you get off the hook pretty easily. I again say that if you deal drugs in this country, you're going to jail for a long time. Perhaps 10 or 15 years the first offense and life the second. It's killing our adults, it's killing our children. We have to do something about it. I would take it seriously if I'm sent to the Senate, but for the last 8 years, this administration has done nothing. We talk about the southern border people coming over, but there's more than just that. So we must do something about it. I would take it seriously, and it's just a terrible situation that this government, this administration has done nothing in 8 years to address this issue in a really meaningful way. It's a serious problem. It must be addressed sooner than later.
Thank you. Bruce Nathan.
As a physical therapist, I am the only medical practitioner that's running for the United States Senate. And there was obviously a gentleman named Dr. Ben Carson that was the only medical practitioner running for president for some time. We need somebody that's going to be in the Senate that really knows what's going on and why things happen for these reasons. Being a medical practitioner, I can tell you right now, everything happens with education. Education is the keystone to everything that we do in this country. The children need to learn very early not to do any drugs, and the detrimental effects that we will have or there will be if they decide that they want to do drugs. That's the key issue right there. We can try and lock them up all we want to. We can try and do everything else we can, but it's not really going to work. Should there be tougher laws? Sure. But in the end, that's not going to work. What's going to work is finding the solution. The solution is just like some of these gentlemen down here. Rocky's a businessman. These guys are businessmen. Businessmen know it's supply and demand. Well, if there's no demand, then who cares about the supply? So let's get rid of the demand. The demand is from education. Education makes it so that the children will not want it anymore, and you have a major reduction in the amount of drugs that's going to flow in the country. And that's all you have to do. I'm saying it's all you have to do like it sounds easy. It won't be easy. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be a very tough fight. Nancy Reagan said a long time ago, just say no, back in the 80s. That's what she said. But it was just too little, too light. It needs to be a lot more. And if we do it in the proper way and we make it so that it becomes something that all our children can see in a very positive way without drugs in their lives, it will happen. And that's the way we can end the war on drugs.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Basil Dallek, please.
I have served in the public before. I was a member of the Village Council in Tequesta, Florida. And one of my notions was to have one meeting a month among the citizens to discuss national issues. The rest of the council hooted me down. What do we have to do with, all we need to pay attention to is the cost? No, that's not so. Local, all politics is local. The reason I'm saying that is we need, not just Florida, we need town meetings to discuss various issues. So I am not going to, among other things, I am not going to discuss this issue because I would want input from the citizens in my community about this and every other issue, whatever it is, abortion, marriage, whatever it is, the citizens in the municipalities need to talk about it and to tell the representatives of government what they want. I will express no position on this issue because I don't want to distract from the primary issue, which is the existential one of whether we're going to live as a country or die. That's why thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Barry?
you, Joe, for kicking us off on that first question, and we appreciate the comments from our candidates here tonight. I'm going to take the next question, but pose the next question to you, but we're going to stay pretty much on the health care issue. Since we were talking about the drugs, we're going to talk about health care right now, the Affordable Health Care Act, in fact. And the question is, if the Affordable Health Care Act, or as it's known as the Obamacare, is repealed in the next Congress, what changes or alternatives would you, as a senator from the state of Florida, suggest? And Basil, can we have Basil?
Sure, absolutely. Again, as far as specific recommendations that I would have, I will not become involved in that. This isn't because it's a distraction from the primary issue of to be or not to be of this country. If we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to sink. So we have to focus on, do we want to keep killing people, or do we want to stop and focus on our problems? But that being said, this is crucial. Of course, it's an important issue. And again, what's crucial is to have knowledgeable people informing the citizens and their representatives of what alternatives there are. This is all of these things. You need to have, no legislative body can function without expert advice. So again, I will not propose anything on that issue. It's a crucial issue, of course, but it's subsidiary. There's not going to be any worry about health issue if there's no country to have problems with.
Thank you. Bruce Nathan.
The Obamacare has been tried to be repealed a number of times. I believe it's either 52, 54. They've done it a number of times in Congress. It has never gotten repealed. It's got a lot of roots, and I see it every day as a practicing physical therapist. I hear about people getting 2 visits or 4 visits for something they need 14 or 20 visits for. It's an absolute catastrophe. But nobody's looking at it from the proper direction. The direction to look at this is from a foundational point of view. The idea of the Affordable Health Care Act is built on the IRS. The IRS is the one that controls it. That's why Obama hired 5,000 people to run the Affordable Health Care Act. And as you know, it came out in a disaster, but it's gotten stronger each year. He has made it so it's his strength on 2013, 2014, 2015. Each year in October, it has gotten a little stronger. It's built some more roots. He was very methodical in his decisiveness of making this thing work and keeping it in place. There's only one way to get rid of it, only one, and not one candidate has said it out loud to the public until this moment in time. It's the IRS that has to go. Once you get rid of the IRS, which nobody has wanted, and Congress never authorized the IRS to be invoked anyway, once IRS goes and we put in either a fair or flat tax, it would have to be a decision between multiple experts which one would go in, but one of the two would go in. The IRS falls, Obamacare falls with it. The states then take over the whole idea of health care. Each state becomes competitive, and they can make it so that every state we have in the 50 states, Obama would say 52, I say 50, but all states would have a say in the healthcare system. Each one would be able to sell. So let's say Tennessee would be able to sell stuff to Florida, Alabama could sell to Arkansas, and that's the way it would work and run easily and efficiently and competitively. That's what needs to happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
I want to go back before I answer this question about the people on drugs. I'm real proud of Florida. We have the Marchman Act, which is the only act in the United States where you can involuntarily put a drug addict by a judge and a hearing to force them to get help. Right now, people can come in and out of the system in the other states. If I go to the Senate, that bill needs there needs to be a bill to expand the Florida Marchment Act. The other states applaud it, but they feel that it's constitutionally a violation. It's not. If somebody's about to die from a heroin addiction or any other addiction, the Marchment Act has saved many lives. In reference to the IRS issue, the IRS is one of the most important departments that we have here in America. They collect taxes. They're fair. When they're not fair, there are appeal situations. There are times that they're not fair. But the IRS is crucial that we have the IRS. We have to continue to call them out when they're wrong. Let me tell you about health care. I'm 55 years old. I'm not going to bring this issue up again. I've made millions of dollars in my lifetime. And because I made that money, you don't know what it feels like to not be able to get health care because you take one pill for depression. Senator Kennedy fought for 40 years. My party wants to repeal health care. They cannot repeal it. It's not a Democratic or a Republican issue. It's a human issue. You have to have health care. If you repeal it, you have to have it for pre-existing conditions. You don't know what it feels like to not have health insurance. Now, because of the money that I made, I overcame, and I'm not going to bring it up again in this debate, I overcame, like thousands of actors and actresses, bipolar disorder. I overcame it because I was able to self-fund when there was no Obamacare. Now, if you repeal Obamacare, you have to have pre-existing conditions. There are 30 million mentally ill people. If you don't have pre-existing conditions built in, it's a human issue. So I know what it feels like, and you have to have health care. Maybe you repeal it, but you have to make sure you have pre-existing conditions for the mentally ill and everybody else that has it. I lived it. I know it, and I'm going to spend my life helping people that I've been doing to get over mental illness and the bipolar issue. 30 million people can go back to work. They have a right to live a life, and we've got to address them. And I would go to the Senate to make sure, because I have a lot of ideas how to do that with urgent care centers.
And thank you. Thank you. That's Howard Nepper. Thank you, Howard. All right. And our next gentleman, Tony Curry.
Let's remember, it took about 40 years. We have different administrations, Republicans and Democrats. Finally, an American Affordable Health Care Act was introduced and passed. There was one unfortunate thing, is that it did not happen with the consent of all three branches of government. We had the Democratic president with the two houses. They did not have across the party. They did not have any Republican Party input. Such a major overhaul for the U.S. healthcare system must be done with all aboard as an American act, not as a Democratic or a Republican act. There is three major things that was introduced in law, and we should always fight to make sure they will forever be eliminated. One of them is the pre-existing condition. Thousands of Americans went bankrupt because in the past, God forbid, when they lost their health insurance, they could not get another coverage for the first 12 months. And lots of people had to go bankrupt because of that. So with this new law, pre-existing condition were no longer available for the insurance company to keep getting rich and rich and rich of the poor working Americans. Number two, for our children. I mean, our children is forever our children. The law now says that they can stay with us with our plan till age 26. That's beautiful. Well, let's keep that. And number three, in the past, insurance company managed to impose a maximum limit. So they will tell you, hey, your life is worth $3 million. Once you exceed that, you're on your own. Well, the new law says there is no such a limit. You will always get the care that we deserve, that you pay for.
Thank you. Next, Rocky de la Fuente.
Obamacare. We need to take a look at the world. We do not make all everything. Everything's been invented. And if we have not thought about it, somebody else has. Canada has free medical care for everybody. Other countries do the same, Uruguay, Cuba, and I can go on and on. There's no reason why America cannot have free health care for all of us. Now let's talk about Obamacare. When it originally was conceived, it was a good concept. It was a good idea, and I would not repeal it. I would tweak it, I would modify it, I would change it, I would make it better. No different than the Volkswagen Bug. They kept coming every year with a different model, and they would tweak something new to make it better. What happened with Obamacare is that Republicans, the Democrats, and the legislation branch, they all decided to tweak it. And this is what happens to the young ladies in here that cook. If you put too many people in the kitchen, it ain't gonna come out right. So let's not change it, let's modify it and make it better. Now, how do we make it better? One of the biggest components happens to be the cost of medicine. Well, most medicines that most people use are no more than 100. Diovan, I use that once in a while, et cetera, et cetera. I don't remember the other ones I use, but I do know I have to take them. But what happens is that they're completely out of reach. They cost too much. And they're medicines that basically have lost their patents in the expiration. We need to have new factories make these 100 top medicines at affordable cost, and automatically we can basically lower the cost of Obamacare by 50% by just basically focusing on 100 of medicine. Now we talk about making pre-existing conditions. Well, I don't agree with that. So that means if you have precondition, you're exempt. If you come in late, you're exempt. But folks, we need to be fair for all, past, present, and future. We need to have free health care for all Americans.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Paul Stanton.
Thank you. Hey, Bruce, you're talking about the IRS. You know I'm a libertarian, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good. So I am no fan of the IRS. I'm no fan of taxation in general. But let's talk about Obamacare specifically. And thank you, gentlemen, for mentioning health care is the issue with heroin. It is a health care issue, and it's one that we need to recognize as such. But let's talk about Obamacare. Right now, with Obamacare, we have younger, poorer Americans who are subsidizing care on the ACA marketplace for older, richer Americans. This is a fact. Additionally, through regulatory capture and crony capitalism, we have a situation where suddenly we have large corporate healthcare conglomerates, large insurance conglomerates that don't have any competition. You only have one choice in some places. Even here in Florida, some counties in Florida, you have one choice for healthcare. So what does that mean? One choice for healthcare. We were talking about supply and demand earlier. They have a limit on the supply. They can charge whatever they want. They can jack their prices up. It's ridiculous. Free markets work. We not only need to get rid of and repeal Obamacare, but we need to repeal a lot of these other laws as well to empower doctors and empower patients so that they can take control over their healthcare decisions. Instead, we have a system right now where the government takes away money from you and then gives you coupons for healthcare. That's wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love free healthcare, but I'm not willing to take money from anyone else to get it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for those answers. And I'd like to propose another question. And I'll start with Tony Khoury in the middle, and we'll go to Tony Khoury's left, and then we'll go back down to the other end. Would you support Senator Joe Negron's recent proposal to split 50-50 with the federal government, a $2.2 billion proposal to purchase 60,000 acres from Big Sugar south of Lake Okeechobee and build a 120 billion gallon reservoir? The water from this reservoir would be treated and would flow into the Everglades instead of St. Lucie or Caloosahatchee rivers. And do you have any other suggestions beyond that for that environmental issue that we're facing?
Yes, I do support that. In Florida in 2014, as a matter of fact, we in Florida voted for Amendment 1 that we take in a certain percentages of some taxes and we set aside so we can purchase land south of the lake. This was approved by 75% of Floridians. Unfortunately, the last 2 years, the legislature decided to use the money somewhere else. But I'm glad to hear now this report. I hope it's not just for political reasons, but I will support that we purchase more land south of the lake. We should build, think about it this way, besides the agricultural factors, we can create jobs by doing water treatment plant also north of the lake. So these are very important because the lake is a very instrumental. This is our water system. This is our environment. This is the water we drink. This is for our children. This is, the more we think about it and the more that these sugar companies, they're getting away with it. They are the ones who are polluting the lake. These are the U.S. sugar companies. They are being subsidized by your dollars to the tune of $1.2 billion a year. And guess what they do? They buy the politicians, every politician in the state of Florida, from Marco Rubio to Patrick Murphy to Rick Scott. They've been bought by these sugar companies so they can pollute and not be held responsible for the damage that they are causing in our ecosystems. I've been to Stewart, I've been to Martin County. It's awful. It's a disaster what they have done. When are we going to hold them responsible? But I can tell you this, why should you want to vote for Marco Rubio back? Or why do you need to vote Patrick Murphy back? Or in 2 years, Rick Scott to become the next U.S. Senator? Think about that.
Thank you. Howard Nepper, please.
Well, I'll say that Tony did say it pretty well, so I'm not going to rehash everything. Yes, I do support the purchase of the land, and what they did was absolutely pathetic. And I do go back to Mr. Rubio. He did nothing for 6 years in reference to any of this. We have an EPA. There's a criminal arm to it, and our environment is a top priority. So I really do support the purchase of the land, and want to continue to study more on this subject. But our environment is a top priority, and what these companies have done are absolutely pathetic. We have the most beautiful lands in Florida, and we have to do something about it. I agree. Patrick Murphy and Mr. Rubio have done nothing. They did nothing, and they won't do anything about it. I will do something about it if I'm on the Senate floor, that's for sure.
Thank you. Bruce.
Well, I got to go back to healthcare for just a second because we got Howard over here who says the IRS is great, and I've never heard anybody say the IRS is great before ever. So that's the first time ever. So we got Tony who says he thinks the Affordable Health Care Act is great, and I'm out there every day working it, and I can't believe that I'm even hearing that. And he's saying that this is going to be terrific, and we should keep it going and tweak it a little bit. And then we've got Rocky, who says that they're all getting the drugs that they need through prescription care, which is absolutely not true because they have to go off of their Medicare. They have to go to Medicare Advantage or Humana or United, and anybody who knows what's going on, that's what's happening. Then they get free drugs, but then they don't get the services. So they've given up the free drugs, they get the services, they don't get the services. So, so either you stay with your traditional Medicare, which is 80-20 and a supplement, or you go to Obamacare, but they're getting rid of the 80-20 also. So this is horrific. And so I don't think there's any kind of clue that's going on out here in the real world where I deal with every day of what the people are doing. And I'm in the house every single day. Healthcare every day with physical therapists, and I see what, and I can't believe I have to close my eyes and say, oh my gosh, I can't understand this. Now let's go to the river real quick. This $2.2 billion, this is just another form of corruption. This is an amount of money that is inconceivable to most of us, but with government, $2.2 billion is okay, every day let's just spend it. And Joe Negron, okay, well he's in the pocket with Rick Scott. So the two of them are in cahoots together, and then Big Sugar's not even about to sell that land. They just want the money. So they're going to talk and chat all they want to, but I'll tell you something right now, this will never happen. So what they're really looking for, what Joe Negron's really looking for, is $1.1 billion from the federal government to do with whatever they want, because we'll never know what happens in the end. And if nobody follows that money, because this is what's been happening, this is the tradition, that's the problem. So me in the Senate, I follow the money. I will, first of all, vote against this. Second of all, find the solution to the problem with the river, and then let's find out what's happening. But you have to stop the subsidies, and that's part of the subsidy problem that comes along. The subsidies to Big Sugar is the huge problem. That has to end today.
Thank you. Basil.
This is a classic distraction. It's a very important question. It is not something that we should focus our attention on in this election. This election is an existential election. Are we going to continue as a country, or are we going to collapse? This obviously has to be dealt with. But again, as the other things, the town meetings in every municipality in Florida need to be held on this issue and every other important issue, and inform their the people inform their representatives of what their conclusions are. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll do a little follow-up question, if I may. It's interesting, Tony Corey and Bruce Nathan.
I don't think Paul got to answer that.
Sorry, both hit upon something that we were going to talk about, and that is Amendment 1, which was approved by 75% of the voters. And it requires 1/3 of the tax money collected from documentary stamps for every real estate deal in the state of Florida between 2015 and 2035. It's significant because it represents about $700 to $800 million a year. And to Bruce Nathan's comment, the current situation indicates that much of this money is being used for payment of existing programs we previously funded through the general fund. Now, my concern is, and my question is, now that that money is available for the use of curing our environmental issues, will you, as state senators, keep pressure on the Florida government to make sure that that money is spent?
Excuse me, I think you're breaking
Joe, keep that thought, Joe, but we started with Tony, we went all the way to the end, and we were left with the last question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought.
But we're also running for a U.S. Senator.
Forgive me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So,
I got so excited.
U.S. Senator.
What are you doing, Paul? You're running for U.S. Senate?
I am, actually.
Wow.
I am. Are you too?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for eating into my time a little there, Bruce. You didn't even mention me in your last statement. Why not? So, I like to say I agree with Basil on a lot of what he says. But, I do. So, let's talk about the sugar problem. We have a situation right now that was created by the federal government. The Neverglades issue is sick, and it's wrong, and it's a perfect example of crony capitalism and regulatory capture. You have the Army Corps of Engineers that has gone in and tried to solve this problem, not fixed it. And then we have subsidized sugar. It is not just subsidized, though. There's also trade quotas. The sugar industry in Florida would not exist today if not as a direct result of congressional action. We would not have this problem if we embraced free trade and free market policies. Let's face the facts. The number one polluter in America is the federal government. And all of a sudden now we're trying to look to the federal government for solutions when the federal government is specifically causing these, this horrible mess. As far as the Neverglades problem specifically, I'm running for U.S. Senate, and honestly, I don't see that as a federal issue, as horrible as it is. I see that as a state issue that Florida needs to handle. But it is a perfect example of crony capitalism and regulatory capture, and it's ruining the livelihoods of so many Floridians, and it's sick.
Thank you.
Water.
Here we go.
Water and more water. H2O. We cannot survive without water. Anything that increases our water supply, anything that will create more water storage, anywhere where we can prepare to have more water, we should all support it 100%. Environment. We need to protect our environment. So the environment that we were given when we were growing up, we can give it to our future generations a lot better. We need to create better, bigger green space so we can breathe better, so our kids can play. We can have them in the cities and create bigger open spaces. And yes, we can take it from private property owners, but make sure we pay them just compensation, as is done by the Constitution on the Fifth Amendment. People, yes, we have the right to take private property, but we need to compensate the people we take the private property. Now, as far as sugar, well, guess what? We need sugar in our world. We need the sugar cane. And if we're going to be able to no longer be dependent on oil, we're going to need not the sugar, but the cane. We're going to need not the corn, but the other part of the corn. Okay, we're going to need to become biomass. There's currently ways where we can no longer be dependent on foreign fuel. And we can no longer afford to have a disaster like the one that happened in the Gulf of Mexico. If we decide to go get more oil out of the coast, it's just a matter of time when we're going to have another accident. It's just a matter of time when somebody from another foreign country will put a bomb and create an environmental disaster. We need to make sure that we protect our environment. We need to make sure that we protect our jobs. And we need to make sure that we protect our water supply. I'm 100% for anything that creates open space. I'm 100% for anything that creates more water supply. And I'm 100% to reduce the IRS so they do not drive us nuts every time we have to file tax returns.
Well, thank you. I think we're going to take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Yes, it's time for our candidates to take a 5-minute break. And unfortunately, we don't get to take that break. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what's happening on August 30th. And we'd like to thank some of the folks that have come out to tonight's debate. Not only the candidates, but also I noticed earlier on we had the tax collector for Martin County here, Ruth Petrusky, was here. And so one of the pieces of information that I was handed earlier tonight was from the Supervisor of Elections, Vicki Davis, who said, if you would please, to make sure that everyone gets to take home we've got a copy of it right here on our desk. It's a copy of the ballot and for the August 30th election, and you can take one of these home. We have them out here on available on the entrance area here at Grace Place Church. So we would suggest that you pick one of these up and make sure that you know what's going on with early voting, what's going on with the opportunity that you have to actually do some vote by mail. You can still get a vote by mail ballot and make sure that that is back to the Supervisor of Elections office by the 30th. I think the 30th is
30th.
Has
Did you mention the early voting location?
The early voting location. Joe, tell us where that's going to be.
That's going to be at 135 Southeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Stewart, and that's the election center. And that's the only place that you can have early voting between August 20th and August 27th. It's Saturday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., including Sunday.
So yes, so the Sunday, the 21st, is the Sunday that you can, if you're going to Grace Place on Sunday, or a lot of people do go to Grace Place on Sunday, they can leave Grace Place and head on over to the.
It's easy for you to say.
Yes, it's easy for me to say. I've been broadcasting 40 years, for crying out loud. And head on over to the Martin County election office and vote early. You can still vote by mail. That was one of the things that the Supervisor of Elections, Vicki Davis, said, make sure that people know that they can still vote by mail. You can call the elections office at 772-288-5637, Thank you, Joe. And yes, we're doing our reverb workshop.
Right.
But you could call that elections office, and they will be happy to mail you a vote-by-mail ballot. And of course, that goes along with, whatever party affiliation you are. And if you're a non-party affiliation, if you're an independent voter, you can still get a vote-by-mail ballot.
Yep, for the general election, you don't have to be registered in any particular party. You can vote across party lines at any given time.
That's right. And there are some, as you know, here, there's a nonpartisan ballot that everyone can vote for on the vote by mail as well as on early voting
Right.
and the day of the election. So there'll be some interesting things here. Joe, you and I were talking earlier tonight about some of the things that are going on with today's politics. And, we were talking about all of the dynamics have really changed in this particular election. It's making it quite an interesting time in America, in politics.
It has been very interesting, and I'm sure everybody recognizes it because it is common conversation right now, and that is the veracity that each of these individuals have in terms of picking on each other as far as their characters are concerned, and not as much on the issues where I think issues should be focused on a lot more, and I believe that has to happen going forward because I think that we're running out of names. I don't think they can create any more names.
Yes, I agree.
So issues will have to start surfacing very shortly.
And I think the American people are really going to look for that. I think they're going to demand that that's what they need from these various politicians who are out there to say, hey, I'm going to be the leader of the greatest country in the free world.
And it's hard to believe that American citizens are more focused on the Olympics because, frankly, the Olympics are great. However, what's going on in politics is certainly going to change our lives of our children and great-grandchildren depending on how it goes. This is a critical issue with the Supreme Court judges being selected, so they will slant in one way or another. Consequently, we need to focus, but they say that after August, September, the population starts paying attention.
Yes, and we're going to see things, we've already seen things heat up. Previous to the two conventions
Right.
that were held, and now the heat is still going on, but we're going to see things even crazier.
It's hard to believe, but it will, I'm sure, get more focused, and it has to be on issues. And I think that you have, when it's all broken down, I think there is an incredible difference, and there will be a direction set for each of these candidates, and it will give the people an opportunity to look at that direction and say, hey, I want that path or I want the other path. But I think clearly it's more defined, it will be more defined in this election than it has been in prior elections from many, many, many elections prior to this.
Oh, I believe it. One of the other things that we might want to mention specifically to address what's going on with this election, Florida primary coming up on August the 30th, especially here in Martin County. We've gone from having 32 precincts to having 30 precincts. And so it's very important that you make sure that you know where your precinct is, so that if you're going to be one of the thousands that'll be out to vote that particular day, that Tuesday, August 30th, you can go online.
And that's one of the reasons that you have this form, this voting form here, which lists all of these 30 locations. Mm-hmm. And it's important because I know I didn't really focus on the locations until it gets to be about a month before election time.
Exactly. So martinvotes.com is that website that you can go to, and you can put in your precinct number, and it'll tell you exactly where that particular precinct is located.
It's Martin Votes, huh?
Yep,
Okay,
martinvotes.com. Pretty easy.
Very good.
So there you have it. That's our commercial tonight, our 5-minute commercial tonight for the Supervisor of Elections office here in Martin County. So anyway.
So we have 30 seconds.
Yes. So Joe, I tell you what, thank you for starting us off on the right foot tonight. That was a
back here on
tremendous
time.
rendition of the national
Bruce,
anthem,
walking
and
that
thank
way.
you for leading us in that.
He was here to say.
We really appreciate it. And I could just picture you at the New York Islander games.
It was great years, fabulous years, particularly when they were winning the world champion
Oh, I can imagine. I can
every year,
imagine.
4 years in a row. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, so that had to be one of the highlights for you.
That was a highlight of my life, that whole series of events, which was quite awesome.
Well, that's good. Well, we have one more hour of questioning.
I'll
for-
see if I can stay on track here. Sorry, guys.
Yes, we will stay on track. We'll get everybody's answers in this time around with every question, so we promise to do that.
Sorry about that, Paul.
We're excited to be here.
Do you know what office I'm running for?
Yes, the
Yes.
U.S. Senate.
So I saw when the timer was going down, 8, 7, 6. Bruce went the other way, so I guess he doesn't like the rules.
Yeah, we have a good timer, though. It's a very nice timer that we have, and we appreciate, this is a great venue for this particular type of debate. We've got a great stage. We've got very nice acoustics here. And the audiovisual is terrific. So we'd like to thank everybody who's had a hand in doing that. Thank you to Pastor Rick Addison, the pastor here at Grace Place, for allowing us to have the night to devote to this important discussion. This is probably one of the better debates that I've seen and been a part of in the last 6 months, because at least we're getting to some issues, we're getting some answers, and I think that's what the American people are looking for. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight and being a part of this. Joe, I'm going to ask you to take on your assignment to give us the first question of the hour. Here is this is known as our power hour, our last hour of the debate. And
Let me pick up where I jumped ahead before, and I apologize, gentlemen, in the end. But as was stated earlier, that the Amendment 1 was approved by 75% of the voters. It's a significant amount of money. It's $700 to $800 million a year each year between 2015 and 2035. And I'd mentioned earlier that some of the money's been spent already for things that were previously funded through the general fund, the General Revenue Fund. And my question is, as state senators, would you be able to put pressure, or would you put pressure on Florida government to make sure that this money is spent on this environmental issue, which is why the funds are being raised? And it is a federal issue because it's a federal park that we're dealing with here, a federal area. It's a federal park, is that what you said?
yes, right. Everglades
So
is
that's
national park.
a national park. So that does carry weight as far as that is concerned. And let's start with Paul. Paul Stanton, please.
Okay, awesome. So that's a good one. I don't think it should be a federal issue, though. That's the thing. I don't think that the federal government has really any major business in handling issues that are specific to a state, such as Florida. This issue is specific to the state of Florida, and U.S. Senate, by the way. Specific to the state of Florida. This is an issue that has been made worse, consistently made worse by the federal government. The federal government needs to get out of the way and let the state government handle this. I mean, we were just, so Rocky said something that I need to address. He said that we need sugar cane. I would disagree. Not only do we have substitutes that are made here, such as sugar beets, but if we didn't have sugar cane, I think our healthcare costs would go down a little, which is, an earlier question too. But this is not a federal issue. It's not like the government has magical money that it creates out of thin air. Whenever it creates, Federal Reserve, whenever it creates money, it does so either through borrowing, which is stealing money from our children, raising taxes, which is stealing money from us, or from inflation, which is stealing money from everyone who has a dollar in their hand. This is wrong. We need to look at better solutions. And we need to have those solutions closer to home, where they're more impactful and more meaningful. Floridians care about this issue a lot, and Floridians need to be handling this issue. Why are we expecting Washington, D.C. to give us a handout? They don't care about us, and why should they? Let's be honest. This is an issue for Florida, and Floridians need to take the lead.
Thank you. Rocky de la Fuente.
We have a balloon full of water. And what happens? If you squeeze one end of the balloon, the bubble pops up there. Every issue is interconnected. Now, if we're getting money from Washington, they're not giving us the money, it's money they took from us in the first place. Now, they're basically telling us where we should spend it. And I tell my kids when I give them their allowance where they should spend their money. So if the money coming from Washington, it has to be earmarked to make sure it's spent exactly where it was supposed to be spent, not so they can take it and spend it somewhere else. Now, if we get the money and the money's here, we need to use it wisely. And wisely might be to acquire this property. Wisely is to protect the water supplies. Wisely is to have parks in the city areas so our kids can play basketball, tennis, they can play any type of a sports besides playing Google Man, or whatever the Pokemon, okay? So folks, we need to use our money. We need to use our money wisely. I will promote more parks. I will promote more places to play sports, more places where we have stadiums so we can get more people. Today, right now, we have the Olympics. Wouldn't we like our kids to be playing more sports versus increasing? Then we talked about, here my friend Paul said about sugarcane. The sugar is already here. We already use it. The question is, can we no longer be dependent on foreign fuel? This has nothing to do with sugar. They're going to continue to make the sugar cane, and my question is, instead of throwing it away, we're going to make sure that we use it for biomass so we no longer are dependent on fuel. So don't take a specific angle that I want sugar. First of all, I want to see all those people that are chocolate lovers, you take that sugar away from them. But I was not talking about the sugar. I was talking about the refuse of the sugar. I was talking about creating biomass. I was talking about making a fuel that it's no longer, that is basically we get to live, we get to sustain. So let's make sure that we use the money wisely.
Thank you.
As the United States Senator representing Florida, I will always be fighting to bring as much money to the state. We are the third largest state, and we send to Washington billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. Yes, I will pursue these corrupt legislatures in Florida where they go against the will of the people. If we, the people, say that we need to buy land, let's put the money aside, and these legislatures, they say, we're not going to do that. As a federal United States Senator representing Florida, I will do everything I can to make sure we put those corrupt legislatures and corrupt politicians in trial. We have to go after them to make sure that we spend the money where the people say, let's spend the money. Now let's go back to the health care. There's a couple of points I did not finish to discuss. You know, let's not forget, amongst us here, we should all be lucky if we have health insurance. If we don't, let's not ever forget the 40 million Americans who don't have. Let's not forget the 3 million Floridians who don't have health insurance. These are our neighbors. They could be our family members. One of the things that under the Affordable Care Act that was not addressed, and in my opinion, I believe that should be, is the runaway cost that not-for-profit hospitals in Florida, they charge us patients. How many times you heard $100,000 emergency room visit? What possibly could they do to you for $100,000? How many times do we say a $10 Tylenol? How many times do we say we can get the Ritz-Carlton presidential suite for $5,000 a night? We get a lousy room that stinks for $5,000 a night. So to really overhaul the healthcare system, we have to go back to these ridiculous pricing that it is not fair for not-profit hospitals. I'm talking about, for example, Baptist Health of Florida. You look at the balance sheet, they have over $5 billion cash. They are holding cash, and they're not giving health care to poor Floridians.
Thank you.
Think about that.
Thank you. Howard Nepper.
We're just going to go back to your question because we're all over the map. So, look, as a U.S. Senator, I'm going to do everything I can to go to Washington, and when it's necessary to help Florida with any issue, I'm going to do it. It's a state issue, but yes, I would definitely go to Washington and assist Florida, work with the governor of this state or any governor of this state, Governor Scott right now, to make sure that we help Florida wherever we can. This issue is an important issue that you've brought up, and I'm not going to right now go off to every other issue. I'm just going to end it right there with this, that definitely Washington has to get involved when it has to get involved. And as a U.S. Senator, that's my responsibility to make sure that the people of Florida, the environment, and all these issues are taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Corruption is the key. Corruption is the absolute key. I have spoken with environmentalists, conservationists, sugar, and I've talked to people that know what's going on with the whole sugar problem and the idea of of the money that's getting that's transferring here. And no, Washington doesn't need to spend more money here. We need to stop the money coming from Washington because it's going and work with the governor. Are we kidding? It's the most corrupt organization known to man. I mean, we might as well let's go get John Gotti and let's work with him. You know, I mean, really, it's a corruption beyond belief, and it's almost like we've legalized corruption. And nobody wants to stand in front of this and make it so it's going to happen the proper way. The way to make it happen, the way to make it so that we are going to fix our whole waterway here, because that's the end result here. Living in Martin County, as a United States Senator, this is my prime concern, is to make sure that Martin County is not going to have another toxic algae bloom like happened the last month. And Marco Rubio, 6 years, has done nothing. Patrick Murphy, 4 years, has done nothing except take green water to Washington, and Rick Scott, I don't know what they're doing, what they're drinking up there. So the problem is, stand in front of the money, find out where the money's going, find out how much money's coming in, and then stop it, and then let's make it so it's spent in the right direction. Somebody brought up the Army Corps of Engineers before. Okay, another corrupt body. People have told me they've watched them work. They work for 4 hours a day on an 8-hour-a-day job. They're getting nothing done. When the county commission here has asked them to come in and speak, they say they're busy. And they don't even come and speak. They put out reports, and the reports are so diluted that it's some kind of a political report that's not doing anything for the people of Martin County or Florida. So the bottom line with this question is, stop the money again, stop the subsidies, find out where it's going, and then fix the problem. You know, you can't just say, I'm going to Washington to fix it. There's a solution there, but you got to get in front of the money, put on a Kevlar vest. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I understood the question. Is it what to do with money that is
Well, the
federal
question-
money that's coming to the state?
No, this is actually money that's raised in the state of Florida from documentary stamps from sales of real estate, and it's approximately $700 to $800 million a year. And the question is, it's supposed to be used for environmental issues going forward, like buying land and purifying water. And some of that money has been spent on items that were already existing and that had been funded by general revenue. So I'm saying, would you be willing to, as a state senator, to make sure Florida follows through, Florida government, Florida officials follow through and spend that money the way it was?
To follow
for
the
its purpose.
legislation?
Correct.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
And it's United States Senator. So it's not
As
state senator,
As
it's
a United
United
States
States
Senator.
Senator.
As a United States Senator,
Right.
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I liked your quick answer there, Basil. Thank you so much. And I'm going to continue on the questioning here.
I like Basil's answer again, by the way.
Yeah. All right. We're going to change up the subject matter just a little bit, and we're going to be talking about Social Security. Social Security. What changes in Social Security would you, as a U.S. Senator, suggest to keep the program solvent? Basil.
Okay. Again, this is a distraction. Social Security is important to every. I'm 86 years old. I live on Social Security. So, but again, the focus of all of us has to be on our survival. There's not going to be any Social Security to worry about if there's no country. So we got to survive. We have to survive by stopping the killing.
Thank you. And Bruce Nathan.
Okay, Social Security. It's very easy to keep it solvent. We're living longer now. We all agree. There's like no disagreement. That's one thing where we all, no party affiliation, we can all agree we're living longer. So by living longer, that means we can work longer. That means we don't need to take retirement so early. That means we can take Social Security a little bit later in age. And that means we can keep it in the bank a little longer to earn the interest to keep it going. So if we started making it so that if you wanted half your Social Security, making it so you get half at 68 and you get a full at 73 versus where it is now, you believe it or not, that would help to keep it all in check. Now, Social Security, as we all know, they decide when they want to bring it up each year and when they don't. It should go up 3%, at least 3% a year. Cost of living, we know, is going up way more than that, especially in Martin County. So the idea is, I've got one woman I know, she's a patient of mine, 101 years old. She's living on $903 a month. $903 a month. Anyone here living on $903 a month? I don't think so. She gets Meals on Wheels, she does whatever else she can, she's independent, but I'll tell you, if there wasn't a couple of other services she was getting, she'd be sunk. But the idea is they have to get the 3% raise per year at minimum. And then if we do that with the level of retirement age, that would work. But adding on to that 3%, do you know our soldiers got no increase this year as well? So what's going on? The government, and this is supposed to be a Republican government that's running our country right now, I don't think so. I think it's the outright corruption that's running our government right now. And we need to take care of not only our troops, we need to take care of our seniors, and we need to take care of people that are going to retire, but work until you possibly can't work anymore, because then you can put more in the bank, you can save your money, you can have better Social Security, and believe it or not, it increases your IRA, increases your pension, and that would work out for everybody.
Thank you. Howard Nepper.
I want to go back just real quick to this issue of Governor Scott. I can't help the governor. Scott's the governor. I know all about his history. We all know that he paid the biggest fine in history, in U.S. history, in reference to the Medicare fraud or whatever it was. Now, I can't help that he's our governor, but I will tell you this. He said the other day he's got to work with a president, a Republican president. I'm sure he means to extend that to a U.S. senator. That issue, going back to that issue, it's a state issue. But you know, as a U.S. senator, I've got to work with the governor and work with the people of Florida when I can. And when Washington has to get involved, it has to get involved. So I'm left with the Governor Scott, and I know his downfalls, but he has done some things that have been good for the state. But he's our governor, and I can't do anything about that. But my job is to work with the governor and the rest of the officials in Florida as a U.S. senator. In reference to Social Security, I've said my whole life, first of all, President Roosevelt implemented Social Security for a reason. Sometimes people didn't have the best luck in their life. As far as taking it early, there has to be a discount. 50% seems a little bit rough to let them lose 50%. But it can never be privatized. That would be a mistake because people would do something wrong with it. It should never be threatened. When we have this debt ceiling problem, and you hear this all the time where the elders have to be worried about are they going to lose their check, that should never happen. Social Security must be well-funded. It has to never be privatized. And I would say the way it is right now, they lose, I don't know what it is, maybe 20% if they take it early. But it's one of the most important issues to make sure that our elders don't have to worry when we have to do another debt ceiling increase that they're going to lose their check. And we have to continue to well-fund it in whatever we have to do. And I'll go to Washington to make sure that Social Security is protected and our elders are protected and they don't have to worry about losing their Social Security. We've got to keep it well-funded. No matter what, it must be well-funded and protected for our elders.
Thank you. Tony Curry.
I want to go back for a second about our precious water supply in Lake Okeechobee. Let's always keep in mind that we have in America the best scientists. We have the most brilliant minds in the world. These guys do the work day and night, and they give us the best solutions based on science. So as a U.S. Senator, and being an aerospace engineer myself, I believe in science. And I will listen to these scientists, and I will move forward their recommendation. Let's go back to the Social Security. I believe right now, if you are on Social Security, we should not touch it. Keep your benefits as you were promised 50, 60 years ago. Number two, we're going to start exempting our young children on the first $10,000 from Social Security. Imagine they get 6.2%. Out of 10,000, that means $620. Our young teenagers, when they start their first job as a McDonald's and they make $8 an hour, that's a lot of money for them. So we can exempt them between ages 16 to 23 for the first $10,000. Number two, as you are all aware, there is a cap when you as an employee and your employer will match your Social Security. This is the biggest injustice to the 94% of Americans, hard-working Americans. This cap is meant and unfortunately is used in favor of the rich. That says that once you reach $118,000 per year, we will no longer take your money. That is not fair. This is not just, because it affects only 6%. 94% of Americans do not make $100,000 a year. Think about it. So we need to increase that cap all the way to 10, 20, $50 million. Do you think Warren Buffett will miss a few $1 million here and there? Do you think Bill Gates will miss it? I don't think so. But you and I will miss it. We'll miss the $50 here for extra medicine. We'll miss the $30 raise that our seniors look for.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. De La Fuente.
Thank you, Barry. Social Security. First of all, let's understand how does the money come in and how does the money come out. First of all, every employee pays 7.5% of their wages to Social Security. Every employer pays 7.5%. That means 15%, 15 of every single dollar of every person working in America goes to Social Security. The question is, what happens when the money goes there? That's the $64,000 question. They get 50%, 15%. Folks, there's 100 different countries that do not have the budget that Social Security has. Now, what do we need to do? How do we do it? It's basically our money. We put our money in there so we can get it back when we're older. And it turns out they come up with all these rules and they're trying to push the balloon here and the balloon there, and all of a sudden things don't work. Well, first of all, we made a commitment. We have people that have been paying into Social Security for 20, 30, 40 years. They paid 7.5%, their employers paid 7.5%, and they need to get what they paid into the system. No ifs or buts. Then the next question is, who should get it? First of all, we need to protect the social net. We need to protect our 20%. 20% of our population need to be protected. Because whenever we have a country that does not protect the social net, automatically they go into civil war or they go into a complete coup d'etat. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that our Social Security is protected for the people that pay for it. Then it becomes how much is all the administrators in Social Security collect? How much is the government wasting the money in programs they don't even understand, and how much fraud is involved from the people? They're taking our money and they're committing fraud. We need to give it to the people that belong to it. We paid for it, we deserve it back. It's our money, not theirs. But we need to be smart how we give it back. And we need to take a look at the age, we need to look at our people, and we need to give them the money because they earned it. It's theirs.
Thank you. And now Paul Stanton.
So I'm guessing I'm going to be the person who gets Social Security last, just like answering the question last.
Nothing for you, Paul, sorry.
Probably not, and that is part of the problem. There probably won't be anything left for me. Because Social Security, let's face it, is a scam. It is a system that is such a good idea, it has to be forced. I mean, and let's look at the rate of return on Social Security. Social Security is not all retirement insurance. Some of it's also for disability insurance. The portion that is set aside for retirement insurance, that portion of it gets about a 1% return. 1% return on average. How many people here would put their money in a CD if it only got a 1% return? I mean, seriously, it's a joke. What they do what the government's been doing is it takes the money in FICA taxes, puts in the Social Security Trust Fund. What it does with that is it then invests that money into the economy, which means the government just spends it however they want. And then later they have to, return the money, and they do it at such a low rate, it's ridiculous. It's downright criminal. So what we need is real reform. We need real choices. I think if you like your Social Security, you should be able to keep it. But for the younger people, for this insolvent system, maybe we should have a choice. Maybe we should be able to put our money in something like, say, treasury bonds. Right now, treasury bonds are actually pretty low, so it's a bad time to make this point. But typically, treasury bonds are more than 1%. And treasury bonds are typically a much better investment for retirement because treasury bonds are guaranteed by the Constitution. Your Social Security paycheck is guaranteed by Congress's whims. You can, let's be honest. If Congress gets in a tough spot and they have to make choices, they might take away your Social Security check, and that's sick and that's wrong because that is money that you earned. And we shouldn't be taking money away from seniors. We shouldn't be, instead what we should be doing is we should be looking at real solutions to keep this problem from happening in the future by introducing choice into the marketplace.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Joe, it's...
Well, Barry, I think we have a question here from people, from the audience.
Yeah, from our audience.
I think you should ask that question.
All right, I will. I'll ask this question. Basil Deluc, I'm going to ask this question. And this is from the audience. If the United States gets attacked by ISIS or another terrorist organization, should the U.S. return to the Middle East or suggest another plan?
One more time, please.
If the United States gets attacked by ISIS or another terrorist organization, should the U.S. return to the Middle East, or would you suggest another plan?
Attacked by ISIS. Okay, if ISIS were a country and attacked us, of course we would defend ourselves. ISIS, nobody's an expert. Nobody knows what's going on in Syria. Nobody, especially our government. All we know is there's chaos there, and we're killing people indiscriminately. We don't know who we're killing, all right? We don't belong there, and we don't belong anyplace else. We shouldn't be killing anybody anywhere. George Washington said it a long time ago. We mind our own business. We don't get involved with anybody else's problem. Nobody, no how. So, yes, if ISIS starts building a rocket ship that it can send over here with an atom bomb, of course you fight back. Thank you.
Bruce?
Okay, here we go. All right, well, George Washington didn't have planes back then, so there wasn't exactly global problems. Yes, ISIS is a global problem, and yes, they can come here anytime. Somebody could be coming over our border any minute, the southern border, Texas, and they could be coming here today with a dirty bomb on their back, and they could take out whatever city they wanted to, and it would happen quickly. So, yes, if they come here, we absolutely, not even them coming here, they will come here. They're only a few miles off of our southern Texas in Mexico. They haven't gotten past the drug lords, the drug cartels, because they probably hold them back, and they say, you're not going to go past there, you can't blow them up yet until we're ready. But the problem is, ISIS has to get taken out, and it has to be taken out, it's like cutting off the snake at their head. And you have to do it, and you have to do it fast, because if we don't have it done quickly, something will happen. So we have to, yes, we do, and I don't know if this is a national security question, but I'll take it as that. We do have to build a wall. We have to get a wall built. And if you go to my webpage of Bruce Nathan 2016, if you go to buildourhome.org, you'll see it's not just a wall. It's home, H-O-M-E, highly operational mounted enforcement. It makes it so that we would actually get along with Mexico, but we would stop the trafficking coming in by checking, and we would stop the human trafficking going out. So that would be the way we would do it. But we have to end up, in any case, going to where ISIS is. I would say, if I was going to be the president, if I was going to say, or even as a United States Senator, I'll say this right out. We need 10,000 troops from either side of where ISIS is, because we know where they are. We have to go in. We have to attack them. We have to cut off the snake cut the snake's head off. Then there'll be little cells that'll come up. We'll get them, and we have to do this. We cannot stay home and wait for this to happen. Our country will be decimated. It will be worse than 9/11. We think 9/11 was bad. This will make 9/11 look like just a field day in the park if the terrorists come in here with a dirty bomb. We have to stop it. I know it's not probably a point of view of most people or a lot of people, but on a conservative point of view that wants to save this country, that's the way we have to go.
Thank you. Howard Knepper.
I want to address, first of all, the Libertarian Party, obviously, and I'm not picking on Paul, but, you know, the federal government is there for a reason. You can't privatize Social Security. It's ridiculous. Everything I'm hearing about the Libertarian Party, you don't need a federal government. It's just not, I'm not saying you're ridiculous, it's just not possible. You have to have a federal government to step in where it has to step in, especially Social Security. You can't privatize it. Now, we don't have a foreign policy. That's why Patrick Murphy and Rubio can't go back to Washington. It's bigger than, ISIS has to be addressed for sure, but we don't have a foreign policy for 8 years. In Syria, the president said we were going to deliver a message when chemical warfare killed thousands of people. He never delivered that message. During that speech, President Obama said, well, we'll let Russia handle it, the biggest ally of Assad in Syria. We need to take out Assad. After we take out Assad, we have to then have a permanent base with probably 30,000 troops. That would be my suggestion, but it has to be discussed among Congress. A permanent base in the Middle East, because we keep coming back and forth, and it doesn't make sense. We did it in Germany, we need to do it now. We have to make sure we're the leader of the world, the strongest military in the world. We have bigger problems with Iran now. The worst foreign policy decision was made by the Obama administration. Where was Marco Rubio in there? He doesn't go to work, he doesn't show up, he does nothing. Patrick Murphy's too young, he's a young junior senator. We have to make sure we take care, Congressman, excuse me, you're correct. We have to take care of North Korea, who's threatening South Korea. We have no policy with China. We have Russia being aggressive. So yes, we have to make sure that we cut the head off of ISIS, be the leader of the world, making sure we're the leader of the world. As President Nixon said, if we're not the leader of the world, we're going to have more wars, more conflicts, more starvation. It's true. If we're the leader of the world, and only America can do that, it's just the way it is. We cannot advocate that responsibility to anybody. So in Washington, we have to make sure that the world knows that if you threaten the American people or our interests, you'll have the most devastating response since World War II. And then we're going to gain our respect back. And yes, ISIS is going to go once we get a Republican president. You will not have that with Hillary Clinton. You will not have it.
Thank you.
I would like to...
Now, next would be Tony Curry. Tony Curry.
Well, I happen to be the only U.S. candidate this year for the Senate that is born in Jerusalem, in the Middle East. Make no mistake about it. I will go after ISIS anywhere in the world. We have to be with all our military strength in all the countries that they are operating. We have to also be careful, number one, is to secure our borders here to make sure that nobody gets infiltrated, especially from the countries that they are fighting a civil war. At the same time, I believe in our national security agencies and our FBI, and we have to help them, and we have to give them the necessary tools and the money and anything they need so we can keep an eye on those 1,000 terrorists, as we are told that they are on the terror watch list. We must not forget about that. We must be extra diligent to make sure we follow these guys 24/7. I mean, it's hard to think about it. Sometimes, it becomes the First Amendment, our civil liberties. But, I want to a little bit deviate here a little bit and say, some of these rights are meant for the 320 million Americans. It's okay. There is a reason why these 1,000 people are on the terror watch list. They must have done something. Like, for example, the Orlando shooter, he had a picture taken with the same only known American suicide bomber. So him and that guy went to the same mosque together. So we had enough reason, the FBI, they do have enough tools on their disposal to decide who is on the terror watch list. So we have to go, and I will be the strongest advocate that we will declare war to win, not to just keep it 10, 20 years. We go in there with all our might, with all our power, and we're going to destroy and defeat ISIS, period.
Thank you. And Mr. De La Fuente.
Every action has a reaction. We cannot fix everything. The Constitution does not say that we need to defend the world. The Constitution says we take care of our home first. We need to take care of our education. We need to take care of our jobs. We need to take care of our health care. And then we of course have to take about security. But we do not build a wall. The wall did not work in China. It put them back 500 years and it destroyed that empire. The wall did not work in Berlin when they tried to separate East Germany versus West Germany. And the wall will not work here. The southern border is 1,954 miles. That's from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific Ocean. Folks, 1,954 miles. Are we going to put a wall on the Canadian border? Are we going to put a wall around the Florida Peninsula? Are we going to put a wall in California, Oregon, and Washington? Why? People can come by boats. People can come by planes. And if you happen to build a wall, and the wall happens to be 10 meters big, 30 feet tall, they'll come up with a tunnel. They'll come up with a loader. They'll come up with drones. Folks, the wall is not the solution. Now, we need to take care of America first. We only have limited resources, limited money. I'm not prepared to send one single person into combat when it's not necessary. It is not necessary. I had a lot of friends of mine that went to Vietnam and who came back, whether they're dead or they were cuckoo. Folks, it doesn't work. It's very nice to send 30,000, 10,000, as long as it's not your son or not your kid or your relative or your father or your brother. We need to be responsible, not now how I do it. Very simple. ISIS is isolated. We use a rifle approach, and we prevent that disaster from growing. Thank you.
Thank you. And Paul Stanton.
Thank you. So I'd like to just say that I'm already against the next war. But to address the issue of ISIS or Daesh specifically, can they even fill a football stadium? Like a real NFL football stadium? Anyone know that? I don't think so, no. They are a terrorist group. They're a criminal organization. They are occupying like a state, although they do use guerrilla tactics. Identifying exactly who they are is difficult because in the civil war in Syria, for example, the CIA and the Pentagon are both actually providing arms to competing factions, so we don't really know what's going on. We're just giving people weapons and telling them to kill each other. We're bombing, I mean, come on. We're bombing hospitals and schools. I mean, a bunch of kids in Syria died the other day. No one's talking about that. I mean, our Nobel Peace Laureate president, I think he's the first Nobel Peace Laureate to actually bomb another Nobel Peace Laureate, which of course is Doctors Without Borders. I mean, this is ridiculous. You know, I mentioned before, when 9/11 happened, I was sitting in my high school classroom, and I watched the second plane hit. And then I joined the Army to defend my country, and I took that very seriously. And you know what happened? They didn't send me to go chase down, bin Laden. No, they sent me to Iraq. And that was after we went in and we occupied Afghanistan. Did occupying Afghanistan really help us? We're still there. And bin Laden was in Pakistan. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. There are bad people in the world, and we need to address that. But we need to address that and not just go and occupy countries because there might be bad people there. Think about all of the innocent people, all the millions of innocent people who've died overseas. I mean, how many people have been, how many people have been to Iraq? I can tell you for fact, most of the Iraqis who died were not enemy combatants. And that's sad and that's sick. And thousands of my brothers and sisters died. And I don't want to repeat that.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. Let me start again. Paul, let's pick up right here. And my question is to everybody is, what do we do about sanctuary cities throughout the United States where undocumented aliens are allowed to live and work and not be deported? Many citizens within these cities have no awareness of this. In fact, Jupiter is a prime example. I tell people in Jupiter it's a sanctuary city. People that live there, they don't even know it. But what should we do about these sanctuary cities?
So I'd like to say that I'm not an immigrant, but I have two grandparents who were. Both of them fled from fascist/communist, horrible places. And thankfully they were able to come here. They worked hard, and they established their lives, their family, and they were great Americans, to the end. One of whom actually is a pioneer in biochemistry who's made amazing contributions to science here in America. So immigrants are great. And we should be encouraging people to come over. But right now what we have is a situation where we have people who are in horrible despotic or poverty conditions who are looking to make their lives better. That's all they're doing. We have people who are trying to make their lives better for themselves and their families. And what we're doing is we're telling them, you can't do that because I don't want to compete with you. Because even though you have no connections, can't speak the language, and very few marketable job skills in this area, I can't compete with you. Come on, immigrants help this economy. Immigrants are what has made America great. We hear that refrain, make America great again. Immigrants are making this America great. And we need to recognize that. But most importantly, what we need to do is we need to legalize the immigrants who are here, make them legal. Because right now they are hiding in the underground, they're hiding in the shadows. Imagine if an immigrant were in a bad situation and they needed to call the police for help to save someone maybe. Are they going to do that? Are they going to risk themselves and their livelihood? No, because we've made them criminals arbitrarily because they were born on the wrong side of a line. It's just sick.
Thank you. Mr. De La Fuente, please.
12 million people are here. 12 million. I did not invite them. I did not ask them to be here. But they're here. Deal with it. We need to solve the issue. They work, they produce, they generate the economy. They come from countries all over the place. Mexico, Costa Rica, Brazil, Argentina, Ethiopia, South Africa, Argentina, Japan, China, Philippines. Folks, if you're going to deport them, 12 million people, and you use a bus like the one I have outside, it takes 52 people per bus. 200,000 buses. Mathematically, it's impossible. Now, if we deport them, and they go to Nicaragua, they go to San Salvador, they go to Guatemala, we're going to create civil war in every one of those countries. And the nightmare that we currently experience in Syria, Iran, Iraq, we're going to have it in the Americas. The solution is to make them all legal, give them a path to citizenship, make sure they pay taxes, and make sure that we get the best out of them, because they're married to American citizens. They have American citizen children, and they need the right to unify with their families. More importantly, if we create enough jobs, and we create enough jobs in Central America, they would happily go to their countries. And we're going to miss them, because I think that all these people are assets. They're not liability, folks, they're assets. And whenever we don't have them, who's going to take out the garbage? Who is going to clean our houses? We need the labor force. They're here. They're 12 million assets. And I want to make sure they're assets, and we're going to protect their lives. And we want to make sure they're part of the American dream. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Khoury.
This became one of the biggest topics in this year's presidential election. Well, I'm an immigrant myself. I came to this country when I was 17 years old. We must reform, comprehensive reform of the immigration system. It is broken. However, the next 2 years with the new administration, it must be together across party line. This is an American problem that requires an American solution, not a partisan solution. So the simple answer is yes, we have to defund these cities. They are breaking the laws. They are breaking the laws every day. We cannot have two separate laws in America. So we have to create and make a pathway to citizenship for those immigrants that are here, because we cannot have two classes of citizens in the 21st century. That we must do. We have to deport all those who have committed a crime. You came here illegally to begin with, you already broke the law, but we are willing, as a good nation, as compassionate people in America, we are willing to say, you know what, we left the doors open. Like at night, I close my door. I'm sure all of you close your doors at night because you don't want to leave your doors open so you can have intruders and unwanted visitors to your house. So we have to blame because we never secured our borders. So today we must secure our borders. We have to make a pathway to citizenship. We have to make sure these cities that they will still harbor these criminals, they will take all the funding away from them. So in other words, we have to come up with an American solution to a big problem that we have that we keep talking about the last 40 years. We have to reform the immigration system in the United States.
Thank you. Mr. Knepper.
I want to clarify something. I want to go back. When I suggested, and I'm not going to change my mind, but I want to clarify, that the 30,000 troops permanently based in the Middle East is not to go to war, but we need to make sure that we stabilize the Middle East. If we have a strong U.S. military presence there, and I'm talking about it might be for 20 years, that's going to help stabilize it. That's, of course, we have to take out Assad. Now, what makes me, and I feel, the right person to go to the U.S. Senate is because my whole life I've built a coalition. That's how I was successful in business. I agree with all three of these gentlemen that I would never agree to send immigrants back out of this country. They have to pay a fine. They have to pay back taxes. They're going to go in the back of the line before they get to the citizenship, but we're not going to just throw people out of the country. Now, so to answer your question, we have to clean them up, but we have to do something about it. They have a right to be part of America, and these sanctuary cities, we're not going to send them out of the country. If they haven't done a violent crime, they're going to stay here. Now, moving on to something else I want to go back to. Every public servant in Florida and all out of America, including the governor on down to all of the people that work in public office, I congratulate them. When we talk about we need to make America great, it's already great. But every person from the governor on down in Florida, they work hard every day. The military should be thanked for their services and the veterans should be thanked. But where was Marco Rubio in the last 6 years? He wasn't in office. 15% of the time, he was used in the office for his personal gain. He was never there. Where was he helping the veterans? Where was he helping health care, the sanctuary cities, our foreign policy? He wasn't doing his job. So you have to understand, he abused the office, he ripped off the people of Florida, And every one of these issues is vitally important to the American people in Florida. Patrick Murphy is no better. He doesn't have the life experience. He should never be sent to the U.S. Senate. But I will say that you have to have, if you go to Washington, you have to get along, have a coalition, reach out to, whether it's a Libertarian, a Democrat, you have to work together on that effort. But I have to work together with the governor, and I have to work with all of the other senators to make things happen. Or nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to get any bill pushed through. That's it.
Thank you. Bruce Nathan.
Sanctuary cities. Yes, in Jupiter, I just learned when I was down at the Palm Beach County Tea Party a couple weeks ago, this, in Jupiter, they've imported some 5,000 refugees, which Rick Scott said that they would not be allowed to come in. Who do you think is paying for this? Some people talk about, we had a Social Security question not too long ago. Well, that's coming out of Social Security. I hate to tell you, that's where the money's coming from. For refugees that we didn't want here, no, there should not be any sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities have to be abolished, but you have to get behind a bill to make sure that's going to happen. Now, in order to do that, as a no-party affiliate, there's very few people on this stage that would be able to do that. No, there's no people on this stage that would be able to do that. You have to be a no-party affiliate that's going to be able to go to the top and stand next to who would be Mitch McConnell or Harry Reid, which they're not going to be there anymore. Harry Reid's retiring, Mitch McConnell won't go voted back. So the people on the top would be the president, whoever that is, no-party affiliate Bruce Nathan, and then the governor, and then who's running the Congress. And there would be a majority and a minority leader as well. So I would be able to see the bills that would go up on the floor. The time the bills go up on the floor with with the first 100 days would be the immigration reform bill. The last time, see, they were talking about immigration reform. The last time immigration reform was done in 1996. That's the last time anybody even looked at it. He's talking about Marco Rubio, Howard is. He went through the Gang of Eight. We know nothing happened there. So there he's right about that. So nothing happened with the Gang of Eight. It went up and fizzled. So Senator Rubio has done nothing about this, and he said he was going to do something. So we have to make sure we have a solution. So what's the solution? The solution is, yes, we have to have a pathway not to citizenship, which all these words they're using, is a pathway to legalization. Because no, they came to this country illegally, so they can be legal here, yes. We cannot go out and get them and take them and put them back into Mexico or wherever else they came from. We have to legalize them so they become part of our American culture. But no, they're not citizens like you and me, because we're here and other people came forward the proper way. That's the way people have to come in. But yes, a pathway to legalization is very important.
Thank you. Basil.
Yeah,
Delight.
what happens in Jupiter is up to Jupiter.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you all very much. We have only a few minutes left, and that's not enough time to ask any more questions. Barry, any closing comments?
And thank you for all of you, your time and your responses. We really appreciate it, and thank you for letting us be a part of this night. This has been a fantastic night tonight. Now it comes to a time when we're looking for closing statements, and we'd like to start out with Basil Drella.
Closing. Very
Yes.
simple.
If you would, please.
Very, very simple. We can keep on killing till we go broke. And every killing we do is unlawful. Any time we want, the President of the United States says somebody he wants somebody hit, the person gets hit. We have created a monster. The President of the United States is an autocrat. He can kill anybody in the world that he wants. That scares me. And the only way to stop that is to stop the killing. No, Mr. President, you can't kill anybody unless there's a reason for it, there's due process, somebody's charged with a crime and convicted. At any rate, we can stop the killing or thrive and keep on killing until we kill our country.
Thank you. And Bruce Nathan.
Let's remember who's not here tonight. They were invited. Marco Rubio was invited, Patrick Murphy was invited, Carlos Baruf was invited, Alan Grayson. Those are the top big four that are running for this. Those are the ones that are heavily funded by the parties. and they have millions and millions of dollars and easily could have made it here. And we all know this is Patrick Murphy's district. Where is he? Well, he doesn't come here on a normal basis anyway. He doesn't come around to town hall meetings. He doesn't come around unless there's some green water to take back to Washington and Rick Scott. So we have to make sure that the person you're going to elect is going to be the person that's going to make sure they're around, do what needs to be done, that has the solutions, that makes it so that if you have a governor that's corrupt, you're going to stand in front of him and possibly putting some federal charges against this man, and maybe he can leave the office in handcuffs in 2018 instead of just walking out with somebody else being elected. So Rick Scott has got to go. So it's the idea of the parties. The whole idea of the parties is the corruption that keeps going on a continual basis. And we will never get anything done in this country ever if we let these parties continue the way they go. We are on a pathway to nowhere right now with both parties, Democrat and Republican. So that's why my name is Bruce Nathan and I run no party affiliation, because that's the idea. We have to dump the parties. People have been talking about this for years. It's time and it can be done. I told you I can go to the top, I can write the bills, I can have people come caucus with me. I don't need to go caucus with a party. They would end up coming to me because this is the way the country is going. Who would ever think years ago that Donald Trump would be running for president? Nobody would think about that. You know, you're watching him on The Apprentice and here's this guy now running for president. Or Hillary Clinton, who's Secretary of State, or even she was the senator in New York where I lived. The place was in shambles. The place was in recession forever while she was senator up there. So we have two really bad choices, but the time is going to come down to who's going to be able to write the policy, who's going to be able to be there to make sure you're at the top of the Senate, to make sure things get done. I have the solutions, I have the answers. If you go to brucenathan2016.com, you'll find it. If you Google Bruce Nathan, you'll find it. I've got lots of videos. Contact me. Thank you. And thank you, Grace Place Church.
First of all, I want to thank the monitors, and I want to thank Bruce Nathan for helping put this together. Bruce, I will say that a non-affiliated party is not the only one I think that can work with the top. I think a Republican U.S. Senator can work with the top as well as you could probably do it as well. And the rest of these gentlemen, and I thank the church for letting us be here. You have a choice to make. I have a YouTube 30-minute info commercial talking about the dialing for dollars, where there's congressmen being sent to boiler rooms raising money under the Democratic and both the Republican Party leadership. It's outrageous. When the American people hear about it, they're going to go crazy. That they're working in boiler rooms raising money and not doing their job. For the last 8 years, we don't have a foreign policy. Now, Donald Trump, I support him, not all of his issues. But if we go back and we look at Hillary Clinton's Secretary of State, she was the worst Secretary of State in U.S. history. Foreign policy affects your lives, it affects your economy. I want to kind of end this by thanking our military. They're the best in the world. They serve and make us free. I want to thank the police, because without the police we have nothing. They keep us free. Every public servant in Florida, including the governor. The governor, I have to work with the governor if I go to Washington. I have to work with all of the people in Florida and all of the public officials. But I get sick and tired of hearing people talk about how horrible the country is and it has to be better. Listen, we're a great country, but you have to send the right person to Washington. And I'm not going to keep being redundant on Marco Rubio and Patrick Murphy. He's not meant to be a senator, Patrick Murphy, at this time. He's too young, and he doesn't have the life experience. Marco Rubio never went to work. It's that simple. If you want to elect Marco Rubio to do nothing, then you put him back in office and he's going to do nothing but use the office for his personal benefit. If you want somebody to go to Washington and shake it up and make sure that your foreign policy is there, Social Security is protected, health care, college students don't have debt around their neck, and every other issue, and create better homeland security has to be better, and protect you and your families, and I'm the person to go. So watch for me on television across the state in September and October, but I hope the voters of Florida, and the media needs all of us to go across the state. It's the most important thing is television. All of these gentlemen have a right for the millions of people to hear from them. So I ask the media to please do the right thing for the people of Florida so all the people of Florida can hear from all of us. That's what democracy is about. The media must be responsible. Thank you.
Isn't it time to elect a person with no special interest, a successful small businessman? I am your guy. I am Tony Corey. Our campaign is self-funded. Our campaign is about the middle class, working people of Florida, because I never forgotten where I came from. I came from Jerusalem, growing up on welfare, working 2 jobs right here in Homestead, Florida, with my wife and 2 kids. There are millions of Floridians today working 2 jobs and barely making ends meet and without health insurance. So much are the results of bad decisions in Washington. Take a chance on the new guy. Elect me, Tony Corey, to be your next U.S. Senator. I will fight for Florida. I will fight to destroy and defeat ISIS and keep America safe. I will fight to make the minimum wage a living wage. I will fight to strengthen Social Security and Medicare. I will fight to make community college free. I will fight to ensure the entrepreneurs flourish, because in America, small business is where the jobs are. I want to thank you so much for coming here tonight. I want to thank the church. I want to thank Bruce and my friends over here, the No Party affiliates. Thank you. God bless you, and good night.
Mr. De La Fuente.
Thank you. 120 seconds. I need to explain you in 120 seconds how we can solve 1,000 issues that have taken 100 years to get here. Please go to my page, Rocky2016.com. Study me in its entirety. Go there, understand the issues. You will agree at least in 80% of all my issues, on all your issues. The other 20% is non-negotiable. But if we can agree on 80%, I think we have something to work with. In addition, there's 12 of us running for U.S. Senate. Only us 6 of it here, 50%. Just a little bit better than Rubio's showing up to work. But at the same token, what about the 6? These gentlemen over here to my left, Basil, Bruce, Howard, and Tony, will be on the ballot in November. November 8th, you'll have a chance to vote for these people, and you will have an opportunity to study them more. But the person here to my right, he's fighting in the primary to an opponent that did not bother to show up to see you, did not care what's happening in this county, does not care what happened in this area. So if you would like to, if you happen to be a registered libertarian, or you have friends, please vote for this young man. He deserves the right for people to study him between now and November 8th. At the same token, I'm running against 5 interesting competitors. It appears we all here agree they don't like Murphy and they don't like Grayson. And it appears this is Murphy's district. I don't know if he is informed of that, but maybe he should. He should be here. But at the same token, I am fighting for my life this August 30th. I want to have the right for all Florida to vote for me in November 8th. Therefore, if you're a Democrat and you're voting, please go and vote August 30th. Go in the absentee ballots and go, more importantly, on the early voting. And give me an opportunity to be with this good gentleman, with all of them. Give me an opportunity to be with Paul, and maybe you can ask questions again in September and October. We are here. We deserve the right to be elected. And Paul, I wish you luck on August 30th. And if you hear me and you know people that are voting on the Democratic ticket, please vote for me on August 30th. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Paul Stanton.
So I would like to say that Rocky is, of course, my favorite Democrat running for Senate. He's a Democrat, but he actually wants to, like cut back government a bit. So that's amazing. I mean, I'm a libertarian. I love that kind of thing, right? But so peace, liberty, and empowerment. Those are my watchwords. And while other people out up here are offering their own solutions, those solutions are paternalistic. They're offering government solutions to individual problems. Their solutions, many of them, are treating us Americans like children. How many people here, if heroin were legal, would do it? I don't think anyone here. Now, how many people here, if they had a heroin addiction, would want to be able to go get help and not risk having your life get ruined by being put in a cage and then having all future job prospects ruined? But think about that for a second. So, if you're looking for the candidate up here who's going to offer you a free pony, that's not me. But what I can offer you is peace. I can offer you liberty. I can offer you empowerment. And after 6 years, if you don't like more money in your pocket and you don't like more individual empowerment and more individual freedom, then vote for, a Rubio or something, But let's face it here. We must break free from fear and empower ourselves for a future where we can truly let liberty prosper. We can have a world set free in our lifetime. Empower yourselves. Vote Libertarian and vote Paul Stanton for the United States Senate. Thank you.
Paul, that little girl would like the free pony, I can tell you right now. She wants a free pony.
I'm not that candidate, Bruce.
Don't vote for Paul Stanton, Libby, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being part of tonight and the U.S. Senate non-party affiliation debate is officially over tonight. at Grace
I would
Place.
like to say to the young lady that, yes, you can have a pony, but not at the government expense.
So wait, Rocky, are you paying for that pony? I got Rocky on the pony. Do I hear Rocky paying for that pony?
Good luck.